When the car sales manager first saw the woman dressed in ordinary clothes, he decided to laugh at her and kick her out of the showroom. The second time, he didn't recognize his mistake and believed he would do the same, but this time it was a mistake for the rest of his life. The opulent interior of luxury drives in Miami exuded an unmistakable aura of sophistication and exclusivity. Polished marble floors, gleaming under the dazzling reflection of crystal chandeliers, stretched out before rows of meticulously arranged luxury cars. The soft, alluring aroma of new leather mingled with hints of fresh pine from the showroom's decorative accents, while the gentle hum of air conditioners provided a cool, constant backdrop to the refined ambience. Elegant instrumental music played in the background, punctuated by the occasional melodic chime from the service desk, as impeccably dressed sales associates floated about discussing features of the latest models. Amid this glittering tableau of affluence, Marta Green, a modest and unassuming woman dressed in a simple, well-worn dress and with no makeup to mask her natural features, hesitantly pushed open the glass doors of the dealership. Driven by a maternal longing to secure a new car for her daughter's safety, Marta's eyes roamed the room with a quiet hope. Despite the expensive surroundings, she carried herself with a dignity that belied her modest means, a stark contrast to the gleaming luxury that filled the space. Almost immediately, her presence drew unwanted attention. Logan Kane, the dealership's manager, stood near a polished reception desk. Clad in a tailored suit with an air of entitlement and self-importance, Kane's gaze swept over Marta from head to toe as if measuring her worth against an unspoken standard. With a dismissive snort and a cool, scornful look, he advanced toward her. "Madam, this establishment isn't meant for someone like you," Kane barked abruptly, his voice echoing off the pristine, marble-clad walls. "We deal with elite clientele here. Now, kindly leave before I call security." His tone left no room for argument. Each word was a biting rebuke that underscored his absolute disdain. The sound of his words, laced with derision, paralyzed the nearby customers for a moment. The smooth clink of expensive crystal and the murmur of hushed conversations came to an abrupt pause as the other staff members cast furtive, approving glances toward Kane's display of condescension. Marta's face, etched with confusion and hurt, betrayed her inner turmoil. A hot flush spread across her cheeks as she clutched the handle of her worn handbag. Unable to contain the swelling emotion, tears welled in her eyes. Her lips trembled as she fumbled for her cell phone. In a shaky whisper laden with despair, she dialed the number of her husband, Ethan Green, her only solace in a world that often pressed her down. "Ethan, it's me, Marta," she choked out, her voice breaking as she tried to compose herself amidst the astonishment of a scene unfolding before her. They told me to leave. They said I don't belong here." Her words were punctuated by the soft sniffles of mounting tears and the persistent hum of disapproving murmurs in the background. Outside the immediate confrontation, the atmosphere in the showroom remained fixed on the unfolding drama. The display of gleaming luxury vehicles and the soft whisper of affluent clientele suddenly felt colder, as if the chic elegance of the space had been tainted by Kane's brazen arrogance. His smug, self-assured smile, as he watched Marta's discomfort, only amplified the injustice of the moment. The other employees, who had silently agreed with his sentiment through knowing glances and curt nods, created a palpable wall of elitism. With a trembling hand, Marta pressed the call button, her expression a mixture of devastation and determination. In that moment of vulnerability, every detail, the glossy marble underfoot, the refined aroma clashing with bitter disdain, and the echo of harsh words, was etched into the memory of the onlookers and, unbeknownst to them, would soon spark a transformation far beyond the walls of luxury drives. Shortly after Marta's tearful phone call, the scene shifted to a sleek, dimly lit office in downtown Miami. Ethan Green, a man whose calm demeanor and piercing eyes belied his secret billionaire status, listened intently to his wife's anguished words. Though he had long concealed his immense wealth from the public, the hurt in Marta's voice ignited a fire of righteous indignation within him. Determined not only to protect her dignity, but also to strike back against the arrogance that had wounded his family, Ethan swiftly formulated a plan to exact revenge. one that would turn the tables entirely. With meticulous precision, Ethan convened an emergency meeting with his discreet cadre of trusted legal advisors and financial experts. "We cannot allow such blatant discrimination to go unpunished," he declared, his voice steady yet simmering with resolve. "I want to purchase luxury drives outright. Let's prepare all the necessary documents to buy this entire chain. We will offer $15 million, and I want the transaction to remain completely anonymous until I, personally, step into that showroom." His words resonated with a mix of cold strategy and personal retribution. Every detail of the plan was set in motion to protect his wife and restore their pride. A few days later, with the paperwork meticulously prepared and his team working behind the scenes to secure the deal without revealing his identity, Ethan reappeared in the public eye. Clad in a tailored suit and exuding the quiet confidence of a man in control, he escorted Marta back to Luxury Drives. The atmosphere in the dealership had not changed since the initial altercation. The showroom still boasted glistening marble floors, the rich aroma of new leather filled the air, and the subdued hum of high-end cars whispered sophistication. Yet, the room now crackled with an undercurrent of anticipation as Ethan and Marta approached the reception area. Logan Kane, the dealership's arrogant manager, still maintained his condescending smirk as he recognized Marta entering once more. His eyes gleamed with derision. He believed he had already humiliated her before. Sensing an opportunity to relive his victory, Kane greeted them casually but with an icy tone. "Welcome back. What can I do for you today, Mrs. Green?" His voice dripped with sarcasm as he scanned Marta's simple attire and contrasted it with the luxurious surroundings. Marta, emboldened by Ethan's silent presence, tried to respond, but before she could speak, Ethan interjected smoothly. "Actually, Mr. Kane," he said, his voice authoritative yet measured, "we're here to finalize a rather significant matter." With barely a pause, he produced a thick envelope from his briefcase. The envelope was securely sealed and embossed with an official insignia that hinted at high-level financial transactions. Kane's confident smile faltered for a split second as he glanced at the document. "And what might that be?" he asked, attempting to mask his apprehension with forced cheerfulness. Ethan held up the envelope, the gravity of the moment evident in every measured word that followed. "This envelope contains the final purchase documents. Effective immediately, Luxury Drives is under new ownership." His tone was clear, leaving no room for ambiguity. A bold proclamation that shocked the assembled staff and onlookers. Around them, murmurs began to ripple through the showroom. The polished floors and pristine cars now reflected more than luxury. They mirrored a dramatic reversal in power. As Ethan handed the documents to a stunned Kane, the manager's smug expression melted into one of panic and disbelief. This is impossible," Kane stuttered, his voice a mixture of anger and fear. But the message was clear. Ethan Green had outmaneuvered his provocation, and the tables had turned violently in his favor. At that moment, as the new ownership documents were formally accepted, Marta glanced over at her husband through tear-filled eyes. A silent mix of gratitude and vindication passed between them. The elaborate operation had succeeded in not only avenging the humiliation inflicted upon her, but also in delivering a resounding message against discrimination. The showroom's atmosphere shifted once more, the earlier tension now crackling with an electric promise of justice, as the dramatic twist of fate forced the proud, indifferent manager to confront his own fallibility. Ethan Green stepped further into the sleek showroom with calm authority. The opulent silence that had settled over the crowd was soon shattered by the sound of his measured declaration. Standing confidently before a stunned Logan Kane and the gathered staff, Ethan slowly opened a leather-bound portfolio in his hand and scanned the room with an unwavering gaze. "In light of recent events and in accordance with all legal procedures, I hereby announce that Luxury Drives is now under new ownership," Ethan declared, his voice clear and resonant. The words seemed to echo against the gleaming marble floors and reflective surfaces of the showroom, carrying a weight that silenced even the lingering snickers and condescending laughs from Kane's entourage. For a long, charged moment, time appeared to stretch. Kane's eyes widened in disbelief as he fumbled with his tie, his previously assured smile vanishing into an expression of shock and confusion. The luxurious environment, the polished, reflective marble, the refined scent of new leather, and the ambient, soft hum of a modern air conditioning system had suddenly become the stage for a dramatic power reversal. Employees and well-dressed clientele alike slowly leaned in, their excited murmurs growing louder as they absorbed Ethan's announcement. Ethan continued, his tone measured yet imbued with a steely determination that could silence any dissent. This change comes not only as a matter of principle, but as a clear signal that discrimination and arrogance have no place in our city's business practices. I have secured all necessary documents and have completed the acquisition following proper legal channels. This decision, effective immediately, marks a new chapter for luxury drives, one built on fairness, transparency, and opportunity for all. At that, a ripple of disbelief ran through the room. Logan Kane's face flushed as he tried to regain his composure, but only managed to stammer something incoherent as his eyes darted over to his assembled team, who shared his mounting panic. The confident air of entitlement which had defined the dealership's management was now visibly fracturing. Employees exchanged uneasy looks, and a few of the high-end salespeople whispered to one another, their voices barely audible under the dominant announcement. The tension escalated palpably as Ethan slowly extended his arm, presenting a sealed set of documents to a visibly trembling Kane. The envelope, embossed with a prestigious insignia and bearing the official stamp of finality, was handed over like an ultimatum. The room fell silent for several seconds as Kane's eyes, full of anger and disbelief, scanned the papers. One by one, the words on the document impressed upon him that his authority was no longer recognized. Ethan had fulfilled every legal requirement to take control of the showroom. A murmur spread through the crowd, part incredulity, part supportive applause, and it seemed as if the very heartbeat of the showroom had quickened. The previously smug expressions on the faces of Kane's staff were replaced by shock and uncertainty. Kane tried to mask his dismay with a forced laugh, but it rang hollow in the charged environment. Ethan's gaze, sharp and resolute, locked onto Kane's for a brief, tense moment. "I regret that it has come to this," he said evenly, "but actions rooted in discrimination and arrogance will be met with justice. This is not an attempt at personal retribution alone. It is a stand for dignity and fairness for those who have been mistreated." As the finality of Ethan's words sank in, the air in the showroom thickened with anticipation. Every eye was fixed on Kane, whose posture sagged under the burden of his newfound humility, and on Ethan, whose calm demeanor stood as a beacon of authority. The murmurs among the onlookers grew in intensity, a mix of admiration for the bold move and apprehension for what would come next. Before any further proof could be unveiled, the tension reached a crescendo. The envelope lay on the polished glass coffee table, its sealed fate a silent testament to the turnaround in power. The moment hung palpably in the air, leaving the crowd to wonder how Kane would react and what explosive evidence Ethan might reveal next. With the tension in the showroom still simmering from Ethan's bold declaration of new ownership, he signaled to a nearby technician. In a measured tone that brooked no dissent, Ethan said, "Now, let me show you what truly happened today." Almost as if on cue, the large digital display behind him came alive with grainy security camera footage. The video began with a slow, pan-shot view of the showroom. The polished marble floor reflected the dazzling overhead lights, and the elegant cars sat like silent sentinels amidst the plush decor. Then, the footage zoomed in on a corner where, just moments earlier, Logan Kane had been seen addressing a visibly distressed Marta Green. The camera captured Kane's sneering face as he barked dismissively at her. His tone was harsh, and his words, though muffled by the ambient sound, were unmistakably demeaning. In one particularly damning moment, Kane was seen pointing aggressively at Marta and gesticulating wildly, as if to emphasize that she clearly did not belong among the affluent clientele of luxury drives. A chorus of shocked gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience as the damning clip played. Ethan's voice, calm yet unyielding, resonated over the playback. "This is Exhibit E," he declared. "A recording from our security cameras. Notice how Mr. Kane treats my wife with blatant contempt." His actions, his tone, every gesture is aimed at humiliating her. The video evidence left little ambiguity. Kane's behavior was not an isolated misstep, but a vivid display of arrogance and discrimination. As the recording reached its most damning moments, where Kane laughed dismissively and barked orders to staff to make sure Marta immediately left, the atmosphere in the room grew electric with indignation. Employees who had earlier exchanged curt nods of approval with Kane now stared in shock and dismay at the incriminating footage. Ethan rose from his seat and with a controlled, resolute voice declared, "Mr. Kane, effective immediately, you are to pack your belongings and vacate this premises. Your actions, as demonstrated in this recording, are now dishonorable and unacceptable under the new management." His tone brooked no argument, and his words sent a clear message that the previous regime was over. Logan Kane's previously confident smirk dissolved into an expression of panic. "This isn't," he began, but was cut off by Ethan's firm interjection. "There will be no further discussion on this matter. Security, please escort Mr. Kane out." The sound of approaching footsteps and the subtle clink of handcuffs being prepared, though no one had expected such a dramatic turn, filled the tense silence that followed. Meanwhile, as the video continued to play on the screen, several staff members, initially loyal to Kane, could only watch in dumbfounded silence. Their eyes were wide with shock, and some exchanged quick, nervous glances with colleagues, as they realized that not only was Kane's behavior on full display, but it was now indisputable evidence that had become public. A couple of onlookers raised their mobile phones, capturing every moment. Soon, snippets of the video rippled beyond the confines of the showroom, as someone began uploading it onto social media. The sound of clicking, recording, and hurried whispers underscored the shift in power. The luxury dealership, once a temple of ostentation and exclusivity, had now become the stage for a public reckoning. In that charged moment, the recording not only exposed Kane's disrespect, but also symbolized a defeat of elitism. The showroom's elegant decor now bore witness to this radical twist. A profound reversal where the once arrogant manager was being ousted amid a storm of live, irrefutable evidence. The shocked expressions on the faces of his colleagues spoke volumes. The smug satisfaction that had once cloaked the room was replaced by an atmosphere of raw, unfiltered accountability. As the final seconds of the footage faded off the screen, the silence that followed was heavy with contemplation. The employees, customers, and onlookers alike were left processing the stark image of authority toppled by truth. Ethan's decisive pronouncement, the incontrovertible video, and the ensuing removal of Logan Kane had cast a long shadow over the facade of privilege that had defined luxury drives. Every eye in the showroom now watched with a mix of awe and relief, knowing that justice had, at last, taken center stage. After the explosive revelations on the live feed and the subsequent removal of Logan Kane, the mood in the showroom shifted into chaos and indignation. Within minutes, Kane was being ushered out of the dealership by security, his face a mask of panic and disbelief. The once confident manager, now discredited and vulnerable, could barely meet the eyes of the assembled customers and employees. Already, murmurs of outrage had begun to ripple through the room. A group of high-end clients, who had come to the dealership expecting impeccable service and luxury, now exchanged angry glances. Some whispered that they would no longer do business with a chain tarnished by such public misconduct. Within a short time, several customers began to openly voice their disapproval. One well-dressed patron declared, "I will never set foot in this place again. This is not the service I deserve." Others nodded in agreement, and it wasn't long before news of the scandal had spread beyond the dealership. Meanwhile, Ethan Green, standing beside Marta with a calm yet resolute expression, took stock of the situation. The dramatic turn of events had transformed what was once a personal vendetta into a potential catalyst for broader change. Ethan looked around at the shocked faces of the employees and customers, his eyes narrowing as he made a decision. "This isn't just about one incident," he said firmly. "It's about restoring credibility and ensuring that every customer is treated with fairness and respect." Acting quickly, Ethan convened an impromptu meeting with his newly assembled team of financial and legal advisors right in the showroom's conference area. He announced his bold vision to transform luxury drives from a symbol of elitism and exclusion into a dealership that valued integrity, transparency, and accessibility, a place where quality vehicles were offered at fair prices. "We will rebrand this business," Ethan declared, his deep voice resonating with determination. "And we will do it in a way that serves the community, not just the privileged few." Today marks the beginning of a new era. The decision sent ripples through the organization. Within hours, the employees began reorganizing, discarding the old corporate policies that had once prioritized status over service. New training sessions were scheduled, emphasizing customer care and ethical business practices. Ethan's strategic plan included hiring new staff members from diverse backgrounds and offering incentives to loyal clients. A buzz quickly developed among the workers, a newfound hope replacing the earlier atmosphere of indifference and arrogance. Back in the showroom, a flurry of activity unfolded. Smartphones clutched by outraged customers and staff had already captured the scandalous footage, and the video evidence was making its way through social media like wildfire. Hashtags such as #JusticeAtLuxuryDrives and #BuyBlackLuxury began trending locally, as emotional testimonies poured in from former patrons who had felt slighted by the dealership's previous behavior. The viral video not only amplified public outrage but also signaled that a powerful shift was underway. The community was not going to tolerate elitism and discrimination. At one elegant station near the entrance, a middle-aged customer, visibly moved, confided to a friend, "I lost faith in this brand after today, but perhaps now we might see something better." Across the room, another group of customers discussed the possibility of boycotting the entire chain. The murmurs of discontent grew louder, casting a long shadow over the network's long-standing reputation. Ethan, aware that his decisive actions would soon trigger a larger public reaction, called for a press conference later that afternoon. "We are taking every step to not only rectify today's injustice but also to rebuild an institution from the ground up," he assured reporters sternly, his tone leaving no doubt that this was more than mere rebranding. It was a revolution against the old guard. As the news spread like wildfire, in newspapers, on social media, and across local television, the once proud image of luxury drives began to falter. Customer reviews turned sour, and potential buyers began to question the integrity of a network now synonymous with scandal. Meanwhile, the viral video continued its relentless advance across platforms, sparking heated discussions about corporate accountability, discrimination, and the power of consumer voices in an era of social media activism. At the end of the day, as the showroom gradually emptied, a heavy silence surrounded the remnants of the old regime. Ethan Green and Marta stood together at the entrance, watching the departing crowd with a mix of relief and quiet triumph. Though the fallout was only just beginning, there was no doubt. Luxury Drives was on the brink of a transformation that would redefine how business was done in the city. In the weeks following the scandal, the reverberations from the dramatic confrontation at Luxury Drives swept across Miami like wildfire. The exposé, captured by smartphones and shared on social media, ignited a fiery debate among the public about accountability and fairness in the luxury car industry. Hashtags such as #JusticeAtLuxuryDrives and #BuyBlackLuxury rapidly trended on Twitter and Instagram, galvanizing a community determined to stand against elitism and discrimination. The once proud image of the dealership, a symbol of exclusivity and ostentation, crumbled under the collective outcry. Customers who had frequented the establishment left scathing reviews online and organized a boycott of the entire chain. Mainstream news outlets ran continuous updates on the unfolding scandal. Investigative reports revealed that the sordid practices were not isolated, but part of a broader network of corruption that had infiltrated several luxury brands throughout South Florida. Back at Luxury Drives, the transformation was complete. With Logan Kane's dismal departure still fresh in everyone's memory, his smug demeanor now replaced by a haunted silence, the business was rebranded under the new ownership of Ethan Green and his wife, Marta. The once haughty showroom was remodeled and redesigned to reflect a fresh, inclusive vision. Ethan and Marta pledged to honor the values of fairness and accessibility by offering quality vehicles at honest prices, and by hiring staff from diverse backgrounds who embodied respect and integrity. Inside the newly reimagined dealership, bright new logos and welcoming slogans adorned the walls. The glossy floors and the signature aroma of new leather now evoked craftsmanship and transparency rather than superiority. At a press event held on the day of the official rebranding, Ethan stood at the podium amid an excited crowd of loyal customers, community leaders, and local journalists. Today, Ethan declared confidently, "We turn a page. Luxury Drives is no longer about elitism or discrimination. It is about empowering every customer with choice and dignity. We've listened to you. We're committed to rebuilding trust, creating a space where everyone feels welcome and valued." His words were met with thunderous applause and enthusiastic cheers, as the new vision resonated deeply with the community that had long felt marginalized by the old guard. Marta, standing close by with a gentle smile and eyes full of quiet pride, added, "This transformation is not just a business decision. It's a promise that every person, regardless of appearance or background, deserves to be treated with respect. Today, we set a new standard for what a car dealership should be." Across Miami, this news sparked hope and action. Social media buzzed with support and admiration, and the viral video of the earlier incident continued to spread, symbolizing the fall of a corrupt regime and the dawn of a new era. Comments poured in from viewers who felt inspired by Ethan's and Marta's bold stand against discrimination, and from those who shared personal stories of resilience in the face of elitism. As the community rallied behind the new luxury drives, discussions and forums dissected the scandal, debating topics from corporate accountability and consumer rights to the broader societal implications of bias. Meanwhile, Logan Kane, left with nothing but bitter memories and a tarnished reputation, disappeared from the public eye. His former colleagues, too, were forced to confront the legacy of arrogance that had defined their old ways. In a final gesture that underscored the sweeping change, a local business magazine featured Ethan and Marta on its cover, praising their vision and leadership in transforming not only a company but an entire industry's outlook. Their triumph was a testament to the power of standing up to injustice, and a promise that when people come together to fight discrimination, even the most entrenched systems can be reformed. What do you think is the most important lesson from Jasmine Crockett's courageous stand on live TV? And how does this story of transformation at Luxury Drives inspire you? Write your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment, sharing your thoughts about it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new and equally exciting stories. See you in the next video.